Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
We're told these days that Joe Biden is ahead of President Trump in virtually every measurement of voter preferences and is leading in most all of those treasured swing states. The polls capturing this snapshot in time do indeed paint a rosy picture for the former vice president. And while even many Democrats discount polls 6 months out, especially after their apocalypse 4 years ago, the raw numbers would seem to provide ample reason for optimism. And yet, do people who follow politics with any degree of seriousness truly accept that Joe Biden is cruising to the decisive victory the polls seem to indicate? Well, you know the answer to that. Of course not. We can enumerate the many ways Joe Biden is deficient as a candidate, but history has proven that arguably the most reliable indicator of a candidate's chances is the degree of enthusiasm for him and the election itself among the party faithful, or more broadly, among those who self-define as party members. Unbeknownst to most and buried in the crosstabs of a broader poll, is evidence of a yawning chasm between the incumbent and challenger when it comes to voter enthusiasm. Sarah Cowgill of LibertyNation.com captured it in a recent article when she wrote, "What really points to dismay and apathy within the Democratic Party itself are these dismal numbers forecast on April 29th. 75% of Republicans are enthusiastic about the Trump-Biden matchup, while for Democrats, it's 57%. That's an 18-point difference in enthusiasm. Think about that. For more than 4 years, Democrats have gone scorched earth on Donald Trump, doing everything within their power and often outside the law to expedite his forcible removal from office. And yet, when it comes down to actually putting their money where their mouths have been since Trump rode down that escalator, now that they're forced to take him down the old-fashioned way through the ballot box, they don't just settle on a candidate who not long ago was a laughingstock and still is in many quarters. No, they actually coerce every other legitimate contender into departing the presidential race so they can clear-cut a path to the nomination for this two-time early dropout presidential loser. How exactly can Democrats expect their voters to get fired up when the best they can say about their presidential candidate is, well, at least he's not Trump? In fact, if you dive one layer deeper, you see that the enthusiasm number for Biden among Democrats, 57%, is almost identical to the disapproval number for Trump over the course of his presidency. Putting those two results together, one gets the overriding impression that the only Democrats excited about this race are those who want Trump gone at any cost. More significantly, this all reveals zero excitement about their candidate or the election itself beyond the prospect of vanquishing Trump. There's simply nothing approaching the level of enthusiasm for Joe Biden engendered by virtually every winning candidate in modern political history. Of course, it doesn't help that the former vice president has publicly demonstrated a neurological descent which is unmistakable and presumably irreversible, or that Biden himself was unmasked for his request to unmask the now exonerated Michael Flynn, and Biden's almost certain to be named again in the final report on Obama Justice Department irregularities from Attorney General William Barr, or that his campaign has repeatedly demonstrated an alarming incompetence, unable to pull off even relatively simple online events during the shutdown. Biden's problems are exacerbated by the increasing intransigence of these blue state governors on reopening the economy. It's going to hurt him big time. It's certainly hurtful to the party's credibility, and so is the party's decision to send forth a succession of prominent leftist women to go full-on hypocrite, jumping to Joe Biden's defense over the Tara Reid affair. In fact, At this point, the Me Too hypocrisy is screaming so loudly we can hardly remember the Reid accusation itself. Stacey Abrams, that sparkling twinkle in progressive eyes, who's openly campaigning for vice president and who was totally down with hashtag believe all women, has done a full 180 to hashtag believe Biden. This after the accusations out of left field by Christine Blasey Ford, transparently designed to take down a Supreme Court justice at the 11th hour, were swallowed whole cloth by Democrats with zero attempt to corroborate what turned out to be a 100% uncorroborated tale. Other vice presidential wannabes, Liz Warren, Kamala Harris, want nothing to do with Ms. Reid's allegations. Senator Warren calls Biden's denials credible and convincing, while Senator Harris has refused to comment altogether. And then there's the latest Democrat heartthrob and VP hopeful who's garnered considerable publicity during the pandemic, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. We talked about her in the first segment. Don't worry, she didn't leave the reservation either, saying, quote, "The Joe Biden I know, these stories are inconsistent with what I know and what I've seen in terms of work that he's done to support women," unquote. If, as some on the left have understandably claimed, Tara Reid's coming out at just the right time was privately bankrolled by conservatives, it was undoubtedly as much an investment in exposing naked hypocrisy on the left as it was a serious accusation likely to be pursued by the Biden-friendly elite media. It's no small matter that the left is now vacating its insistence that all women alleging sexual misconduct must be instantly and automatically believed. It hardly stokes enthusiasm among the party's hard left base, which is already demoralized by the withdrawal of Bernie Sanders and highly dissatisfied with Joe Biden as the party's standard bearer. But torpedoes be damned, the left will still advance what should be called the GOP exception. If the accuser is a conservative instead of a leftist, then there simply are no standards for the accused to uphold. So that will apparently settle the issue. But surely there must be some reasons for enthusiasm over the Biden candidacy. Well, based on a generous cross-section of pro-Biden talking heads dotting the airwaves these days, it appears Democrats will try to make their stand on repeating over and over that Joe Biden is a swell guy, a family man oozing with compassion because of his own suffering, and a terrific husband and father. All admirable qualities, if true. But there's one major problem with putting forward the former vice president's supposed character traits in lieu of his record, his ideology, or his vision. Being a compassionate guy who loves his family and has been through trials in his life does not distinguish him from millions of other Americans. And it certainly doesn't qualify a man to become leader of the free world. And this week, the New York Times even admitted, Biden is on the other side of the hill. One of their most vicious anti-Trump op-ed writers, Frank Bruni, wrote the following: "Please tell me why I should care whether Joe Biden is declining mentally when President Donald Trump bottomed out morally long ago." New York Times stipulating that Joe Biden is declining mentally as he seeks to become the president of the United States. And you wonder why there's so little enthusiasm on the left? Enthusiasm is the mother's milk of politics. It leads people to become informed, to advocate for their candidate, and wait in long lines and in bad weather to vote. Perhaps that's why Democrats are putting up a brave front in trying to claim that Joe Biden's current standing in the polls points to his inevitable ascension to the Oval Office. Of course, that's exactly what they said about Hillary Clinton.